Welcome everyone to another episode of the 20-minute mode podcast. I've got a very special guest this time on the show. I've got Nitin Somalaraju with me today. He's a conversational AI expert and a product manager at Tech Mahindra. And he's got a lot of thoughts on conversational AI and where the space is heading. So I won't take up too much time. I would hand over this to him to give us a brief intro about his role and his work in the conversational AI space. So welcome to the show, Nitin.
Sure. Thank you so much, Jude. Really excited, and I was looking forward from the last 1 week to this particular session to be able to discuss and share some views that I have in this particular space, right? So I work as a product manager in Tech Mahindra, specifically in the conversational AI domain. And we have been working on both intelligent automation solutions as well as intelligent analytics from across all different channels, right? Voice channels, text channels that we are looking at. And we have, in the process of the last 2-3 years, right, we have built some very interesting use cases across verticals, BFSI, telecom, aviation, automotive, any of the verticals that you look at. I think that conversational AI has a very important part to play. And I'm feeling glad that I am operating in this particular domain and really excited to share the views on this particular show, right? Thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. I think the last few years it's shown that digital first is the new norm.
Yes.
And this conversation that I wanted to have with you is going to be along the lines of that, and where conversational AI plays into customer support. Mm-hmm. So we'll just get right into the meat of the discussion. So conversational AI and customer support, right? So how do you think this tech part of conversational AI, how has it helped customer support in the last few years?
Sure. The last few years have been really demanding, with the entire pandemic going on. It was a sudden shocker for a lot of organizations with different business process transitions, right? Even we as employees, we found it very difficult to be able to just transition to a work from home scenario, although we were really excited about it. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure, bigger organizations, they would have seen this at a much deeper level. And since any of these businesses, the crux of it, since they depend on the customers and how much of a good experience that you're giving to customers, right? It has become very demanding to be able to provide that customer experience at the cost of losing the personal touch. So the pandemic has given us, an entire new opening that, the positive customer experience doesn't necessarily need to depend on personal touch. Rather, personal engagement is more crucial, right? And we have seen a lot of businesses and organizations reinvent themselves, keeping this in mind to be able to get that optimum customer experience. Even at the cost of not having that personal touch, right? And this is where we also see conversational AI playing a huge part in meeting some of these customer demands that we have been looking at, right? And when we also look at customer support, many of us, we think that customer support is just restricted to the post sales of any particular product, right? But I would say customer support extends far beyond that. Being able to help the customer order a particular product or search a particular product is also, some sort of a customer support that you can provide to enhance that customer experience. And I'm glad that businesses have started seeing this new angle, into providing customer support. And we have been able to engage in some very interesting opportunities across all the different verticals in trying to help businesses provide this enhanced customer experience, right? So we see, it not just being restricted to conversational AI solutions that you usually see in the form of voice bots or chatbots. It extends beyond that. It's about, what kind of analytics can you, gain from these conversations? What kind of metrics can you gain from these conversations? Are you able to understand what your customer sentiment is like, right? Or are you able to understand what is the customer's intent like, even before he asks the entire question or mentions the entire problem, right? So those are some of the interesting areas where we have been seeing a lot of opportunities develop. And obviously the benefits of having conversational AI is having round the clock 24/7 availability of support, right? And at the same time, being your personal concierge to help you with different process of say ordering a product or taking a particular service, right? Whether it is in the searching process or whether it is trying to order a particular product or service, or post ordering support. All of these have been certain elements where we could find conversational AI play a very important role in trying to get that customer experience up, right?
Interesting. I mean, I was just thinking about one thing that you mentioned, that the kind of opportunities that conversational AI has brought in. And when you're talking about that, you have to talk about how this has also brought in personalization at scale. With a lot of opportunities, what do you think is at one point there is still a kind of a challenge in support, despite having all the help from tech like conversational AI?
Absolutely. So, over the last couple of years, we have noticed a lot of different challenges that we have been working on the solutions for, right? But I cannot stress enough on one particular challenge that still exists, right? So, especially in the customer support industry, when you look at the plethora of conversations that happen, right? These could be, pre-sales support or post-sales support, during, the product purchase. It could be trying to be able to get the right kind of installation for a particular product, or et cetera, right? Any of these scenarios, we have seen one big challenge reside with the kind of, audits that these conversations go through, right? Every particular contact center, every particular organization, they have to audit these conversations to essentially try and understand how good they are doing, right? What's going good, what's going bad, are the agents be able to provide the right support? Is the customer feeling satisfied with the kind of experience that he's getting in? And the problem is that the number of conversations, they are so huge that it becomes difficult for any particular organization to go over them manually to check what each and every agent is doing, or each and every business process is doing. And that has limited all of these organizations to restrict their auditing process to less than 5% of the conversations. Okay. So among 1 million calls that happen, only 5% of the calls are ever audited for any of the KPIs that we look at, right? The performance indicators for the frontline guys like the customer service agents, right? Less than 5% of the conversations are being audited. That means 95% views are not being heard of. Now, that's a huge gap in terms of what the customer is expecting versus what is actually being delivered to them. And this still exists till today. And we have been developing some interesting solutions. In fact, the whole industry as such has been looking forward to be able to solve this problem, be able to get that 100% automated audit processes where you're able to try and understand what are the different intents of your customers, or what's the varying sentiment across different type of product lineups that you have. Where is the exact problem that the company needs to work on, right? So, these are some of the interesting areas that we have been working on, especially utilizing the 100% audit automation features that that the industry is moving forward to, right? Including that of Tech Mahindra. So that would be the biggest challenge that we are still battling it out there. Yeah.
Makes sense. I was also thinking about on the lines of, like what data points people have to work with when you're working with the conversational AI platform. So when you're talking about support and when you're analyzing support, do the kind of metrics people track, or the kind of metrics that are most sought after, do they accurately or judiciously represent customer sentiment? Is that, or is there a challenge there as well?
Sure. So there are two parts to this particular scenario, right? So we need to understand that each and every different vertical that a customer support team has, right? It could be, the BFSI or automotive. Each of these different verticals, they have different sort of KPIs that they need to be looking at. And sentiment analytics as such might not be really applicable and fruitful across all the different customers. Say, suppose, I'm looking at customer grievance support, team, right? I have an escalation that I need to make. Obviously, my sentiment is going to be negative as a customer, right? Having sentiment analytics over there might not be able to give you the right insights to take a business decision, right? So we need to go a little bit beyond that. We need to start looking at what the customer's intents are, right? Are you able to identify what the specific customer's problem is in the very first go, right? Being able to improve the first call resolution, is going to be an obvious driver for sentiment, and not just trying to understand the sentiment pattern, right? So, I would say trying to be able to identify the root cause analysis for either the positive or the negative sentiment, which can be essentially understood by, analyzing the intent of a particular customer, right, is the right way to go about it to solve that particular challenge. And, like I said, right, there are different verticals, they demand different type of KPIs that we are looking at. And I think when businesses are trying to look at automation solutions or analytic solutions like these, they need to be able to identify which specific business processes demand which particular KPIs. And that again, even for companies operating in the same vertical, right, they might be completely different for each and every organization. And that also, exposes us to one of the biggest problems that is there in the industry, which is, the kind of user configurability that is required. What the industry players are doing at this point of time is they are trying to roll out very generic product solutions, which include some of the KPIs that you were talking about, right? Sentiment analytics, or being able to have call metadata of how much silence time is happening, or what are the clutch words that are there. But that ultimately might not be able to drive a business decision. So organizations need to be looking at what are the specific KPIs that would really affect and transform their business processes, and also be able to look at what are the specific objectives that they want to achieve at the end of the day. It's not a fancy product that you need to have a chatbot deployed because everybody is doing it. You need to be able to try and understand if that is going to give you a positive outcome in some of the specific areas that you're looking at, right? It could be trying to reduce your OPEX, right? Operational expenses, or it could be trying to be able to increase your NPS. So we need to be able to try and understand what are the specific KPIs with the end objective in mind. And that's how we'll be able to customize each of these, right? So customization is the key over here.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's support 101, right? Where there's no, there are only tailor-made solutions. You can't have, cookie cutter kind of a setup.
Especially in the AI domain, right?
Yeah.
Because the thing is that, dude, it's still a very learning experience for all the industry players over here, especially in conversational AI, right? We haven't yet reached that peak phase where we can say, oh, we have solved this particular problem. This is 100% done, right? Like we see in other technology or driven solutions. So it's still a very learning phase that all the companies are in. And I think the end result will come towards who can bring that customization as a pure product play, right? Customization should no longer be solution driven. Shouldn't be that huge teams are working on a very specific solution for a particular company, right? You need to be able to productize those customization elements too. I think that is where we will be heading towards in the next couple of years too.
Interesting.
Yeah.
No, I was also thinking from the other point of view, from the customer's point of view. So support has changed a lot from the time when people had to dial a 1-800 number to something that you can resolve in under 30 seconds. So expectations have been growing, and it's always good. It's a driver for change. And how should a company react to this, and how are brands reacting with these high expectations, higher volumes, and again a very digital first approach? So everything is done on chat, or now voice AI is also increasing, right? So what should a brand be wary of when they are dealing with a scenario like this?
Absolutely, and very well put. When you said that customer expectations have been increasing, right? Fortunately, we live in an era where customers expect that the organizations need to know what they want, even before they even address or ask that particular scenario to the companies, right? They expect us to know it, and that actually drives us towards one of the key elements in this particular industry, which is hyper-personalization. And that's what even organizations are looking at. Gone are those days when you can send in the random email promotions of products, which I'm really not interested in. I have myself received a lot of retail promotions, which showcase women clothes, right, in the mail itself, and that's not applicable to me. I am looking at personalized content, right? Whenever I call a particular organization, it could be one of the recent experiences that I have had was I had to probably wait for 10 to 12 minutes when I called in my personal banking organization, right? Just to be able to cancel a particular credit card, right? That's a valuable, that's an invaluable waste of any particular customer's time. It's a simple problem that I have. I want to be able to cancel my credit card, and I want to be able to do it in a couple of quick steps, like you said, within 30 seconds. And that kind of personalization to every specific problem that a customer might have is one of the key things that companies should be looking at. Hyper personalization, having very personalized content delivered to them, having very personalized discount offers or promotions given to them, and also be able to have and expand into more of a personal concierge service, right? When you look at conversational AI tool, instead of going onto a particular e-commerce website, and probably if I'm looking at say one of the basic products like a shampoo, right? Instead of trying to search for a shampoo and then use filters saying that I'm looking for probably dry hair, etc., 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 4 5 options, then probably go through the entire reviews and check for which of the products have the highest reviews, and then try to probably filter it according to the price. All of this is going to take me 10 to 12 minutes of valuable time, right? Instead, imagine if I have a voice assistant deployed on a particular e-commerce website, and I have an idea about what I'm looking at. Maybe not the exact product, but I know what kind of filters I'm looking at. I can just speak out to the particular voice assistant saying that I'm looking for a shampoo with dry hair above 4.5 rating, and I want it in the price range of 150 to 200 rupees. That entire query took me less than 20 seconds. And if this if the intelligence system is being able to suggest based on my previous purchase history or similar purchase history from other individuals, that's going to be a great experience for me. So hyper personalization becomes the key, and hyper personalization not just in the common language that we speak, but also being able to expand it to the regional languages, right? That could be a great way to move forward. Multilingual support is always going to be one of the key areas where the conversational AI solutions can work on. And one last thing that we should always keep in mind as businesses is the omni-channel customer experience that you can get in there. Am I able to do all of my purchases or tracking, say from one of the channels, right, at the right time? Probably could be WhatsApp, right? Or am I able to integrate that seamless experience, both both in store as well as online experience, right? One of the beautiful examples that I always talk to about with my colleagues is what Lenskart and Decathlon have done, right? They have been able to provide that service where I can shop around, look around for what are the different products online, and probably place an order so that I can pick it up from the store itself, which is going to cut down my delivery charges as well as improve their logistics planning also in a much more efficient way. They don't need to incur the additional overhead operational costs or efforts, right? And be able to go and search and try out different products. Being able to create that integrated seamless experience across all the different channels is something that organizations need to be looking at as well. Right?
Interesting. I mean,
to create that differentiation.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you hit on a lot of important aspects that customer support as a space has been trying to solve. Few people have solved it well, and a lot of others are still in the process. I was also thinking of when you spoke about the whole banking situation. It also brings us to the necessity of self-service. Instead of getting to a stage where you have to raise a support ticket or stay on call, get to the point where you can speak to a customer service executive and then tell him the whole thing. This thing can just be a product change where you can just add this button saying, I want to know this, or I want to do this. So empowering the customers makes half the work done already. Coming to something we discussed a little earlier, you spoke about how there is no one, generic solution, right? So when you're talking about brands now investing in conversational AI platforms and chatbots and all these things, are there a few pointers that they should keep in mind?
Absolutely. So like I was mentioning it before, right, Jude? It's not going to be like a success or a failure scenario when you're deploying any of these AI solutions, right? It's going to be more of a learning scenario, right? Every particular deployment that you make, there's some sort of a learning that you can make out of it. And what organizations need to focus on is to try and understand what are the different demands for each of these business processes, right? So one of the examples, like you have mentioned a couple of seconds back, right? Self-service bots.
Yeah.
So, is my FAQ going to be listed out on a particular page, where they have to navigate to by probably doing 6 or 7 clicks and then search a new corner in the website where they can get their questions answered? Or is it more like going to be a scenario where I click a button, speak out what my question is, and it understands my intent and gives me the right direction, right? A right answer or a right direction. Now, organizations need to understand which of the business processes can actually increase the customer experience by doing an end-to-end implementation, right? Like the FAQ bot that I was talking about, or the self-service bot, which can address say returns, or trying to be able to order a specific product, or being able to track a particular product. Any of these self-service bots or FAQ bots, right, can be some of the simplest forms of being able to reduce your operational expenditure that you have as a company to be able to support addressing these queries. So I think a careful consideration and a proper due diligence is required. And always we need to remember that, especially when you go to the more complicated use cases, it's always a learning experience where you develop it over a period of time to arrive at that most efficient, phase where everything is taken care by the conversation airports, right? I think so. Patience and perseverance, as well as a proper due diligence, is what organizations are expected to do to try and take the most out of the technology that is available out there, right?
Brilliant. I think that was a very comprehensive answer. It makes a lot of sense when you look at how sometimes chatbots are implemented in a hurry. It doesn't really make the experience better; it makes it worse.
Absolutely, couldn't agree with you more.
And I think it makes the lives of the human agent at the end of it also a lot difficult. So. But I think this has been a very brilliant conversation, Nitin. Before I let you go, final question. Since you're in the conversational AI space, anything that you're most excited about in the next 2 years in conversational AI in terms of the strides you're making?
Absolutely, absolutely. So, in fact, I would say the whole domain as such is in a pretty nascent phase, and every particular opportunity that we are looking at is, very exciting for us. But looking at the next 2 years, right? What we are focused as a team is the amount of hyper personalization that we can bring in this particular space, right? I think that is going to be one of the key differentiators that a lot of these organizations will be focusing on. And also, before I talk a little bit more on the hyper personalization part, right? Now, I think, organizations, especially the industry players in conversational space, have realized the importance of trying to be able to productize these technology solutions, right? Earlier, a couple of years back, we were more looking at, the technical modules like speech to text modules, or NLP, or, text to speech. We were talking mostly in terms of, the technology which is driving the solution, rather than the specific productization or the use case. Now, companies are coming up with very beautiful, brilliant use cases driven towards a very specific problem statement in a very specific vertical. It's not no longer a HR AI solution or conversation AI solution. You have a separate conversation AI solution for the onboarding process versus anything, etc. Right? So they are very productized. They are very domain and very problem statement specific. And I think that's the right way that we are headed to, all of the organizations, right? And that is something where we are going to see a lot of new, solutions coming up, which are very specific focus area, right? And talking about hyper personalization, right? This is where we are going to see most of the upcoming trends going about. Jude, and especially if you look at the kind of models that are being built in the multilingual capacity, they have been doing bonkers. We have been working on a lot of Indic languages, and that kind of exposes us to one of the biggest challenging scenarios, right? We see that there is a lot of language mix when we speak, right? Especially with Hindi and English. We always have a habit of making it English rather than Hindi or English, right? So I think we are going to see a lot of changes coming about in that particular space, and also trying to be able to cater to the emotion intelligence that is being derived out of these conversations, right, becomes a key. So I have been seeing some very interesting solutions being offered, especially for the sales and marketing guys during the pandemic, right, where we had a certain use case being delivered where based on the facial expressions of a particular customer, right, you're able to figure out what else can be the next best action that a sales agent has to do in a virtual call, right? So improvements like that, especially in the emotion AI space, is going to be really good moving forward. And also, being able to transition from the regular chatbots that we are using towards the voice technology, right, is one of the biggest advancements that's going to happen in conversational AI.
It's been an absolute delight talking to you, Nitin, on the 20-minute mode. So very happy that you could make it.
Absolutely, my pleasure.